Coming up on Weekend Edition, Professor Peter Matthews joins us to dissect a busy week in US politics. We'll see you soon.
Live, this is Weekend Edition.
It is time to head to the United States, and joining me live is Professor of Political Science at Cypress College, Peter Matthews. A very good morning. More troubling words
morning,
from Donald.
Jim.
Yeah, morning. More troubling words from Donald Trump this week, saying no one, or saying on his channels, one of his channels, there will be death and destruction if he is indicted. What did you make of that?
That is much more than provocative, Tim. That's an incitement, in a sense, to violence. It could very well be construed that way, especially when you put up a picture depicting him with swinging a baseball bat or holding a baseball bat ready to swing at the district attorney. That is completely unacceptable because he's intimidating the legal process, and that has got to be totally illegal in itself. We must condemn that with all strong language, with very strong force.
As a professor of political science, do you find it extraordinary that on one hand we're seeing comments and scenes like this on his social channels, and he could possibly be the next president again in the largest democracy in the world?
It is very not only remarkable, but it's quite worrying that this could happen from my perspective, because there is a chance. I mean, if he wins the nomination, which he could very well do against the other Republicans, especially if the party is splintered, then he becomes the nominee. Then who knows how strong a Democrat will be put up by the Democrats to run, and whether President Biden will be able to beat him. I mean, the numbers are very close at this point in polling, showing a neck-and-neck race. So we are in a situation that's not certainly something we want to look forward to if it happens. We'll see. There's still some time to go, though.
Peter, Republican-led House this week failed to override President Biden's first veto. What was that about?
The veto was against a bill. There was a bill that House passed to ban ESG, which is environmental, social, and governance issues when it comes to investment. You're looking at about $12 trillion worth of investment with big institutional investors who would like to consider as one of the factors, and they're allowed to by the Labor Department's guidelines, as one of the factors, the environmental issues that a company promotes, the social issues about having balance in terms of their leadership with different, diversity in it, as well as how they govern, if they're governed just by a few people or by more of the board members. Those can be considered according to the rule that was brought in by the Labor Department, which President Trump had actually stopped. That rule was changed earlier under him and said it should not be considered. In this case, the Congress was trying to do what Trump had done, is to ban the consideration of ESG. And President Biden said he's going to veto it, and he vetoed. He would, in fact, they didn't even they're not able to override his veto because they needed 2/3 of a vote to do so, and there was only 219 to 200 votes for it. So Biden's veto was sustained in terms of the House vote.
What about South Carolina Republican Lindsey Grime? He's in a bit of strife.
Yes, because he did something twice. The first time he got a little slap on the wrist and overlooked, basically, when he raised money, made out of a pitch, an appeal while on television at the Capitol building itself, the Senate building itself. He was there, and that's a governmental building. He's not supposed to use any government resources, including a building, to raise money for his campaign. And he did that back in October of 2020. And now most recently, in November of 2022, for the special election, he started raising money for Herschel Walker from the same Senate building again. And this time he was admonished, which is a very strong public rebuke of him doing that. And it has to do with the integrity of the Senate, the integrity. People have to know that the public resources that are paid for by the taxpayer are used for governing purposes, not political or partisan purposes.
The CEO of TikTok fronted Congress this week.
Yes, indeed. Well, that was a remarkable, dramatic event, wasn't it? The Congress seemed not to want to listen to anything that he had to say, and yet he was trying to explain that TikTok is taking precautions to safeguard American information in the Project Texas that they have with Oracle, a contract with Oracle to store American data on American soil in Texas, with Oracle's in Texas, and to ensure that there'll be safeguards in terms of monitoring and make sure that data does not get out to any foreign government or any kind of hostile area that's not supposed to get out to, but to be private. It's a privacy issue, Tim. It's much more of a privacy issue than a national security issue, because the other big data people like Facebook and Instagram and others, they sell data all the time to all kinds of sources, including the foreign governments, I would imagine, but they surely collect data like TikTok does. We shouldn't single out TikTok in this regard. We should allow the government to have a regulation to ensure the data are private data is protected. It's a privacy issue. Make that apply across the board to all the major data companies, not just TikTok.
All the social media as well, and
all social media.
Yeah, the weather in the US, particularly in the south, with these tornadoes, we have seen the scenes, and 23 people are dead. They think the death toll will rise. Awful.
Horrendous devastation, Tim. And we actually had a couple of tornadoes right here in Los Angeles County last week, and one of them destroyed mobile homes in a mobile home park. The other one hit a school. And I understand the teacher was sucked out of her classroom. Can you believe that? This is horrendous because we don't have tornadoes here in Los Angeles. This is happening all over the country now because of climate change. There's no doubt about that. As temperatures increase, we're at 1.1 degrees Celsius above pre-industrial levels. And if we get to 1.5, all bets are off, and we're moving in that direction unless we can get all the countries of the world, especially the United States and China, to reduce their emissions, and that has to be done right away. This is a warning sign, and the tragedy is tremendous for these American people who are dying in that case.
The first chapter of your book was all about climate change, wasn't it, Peter?
Yes, it is. My book, Dollar Democracy on Steroids, focuses the entire first chapter on climate change and how big money in American politics has actually encouraged legislation and policy that actually exacerbated, made climate change worse. The big oil companies giving money to, for example, to various members of Congress who voted for deregulating them and to allow them to continue to pollute and not move toward renewable energy. We've got to move toward renewable energy immediately, Tim. The whole world has to do it quickly. And the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change of the United Nations has come up with a goal that can be attained if we move right away. We can't wait, though. That's what I've written about, actually.
Absolutely, Peter. Well, I've got to get a copy of that book and have a good read of it because, people watch this program. They watch you every week, and we'll let them know where they can get it. Good to chat. We will catch up next week.
Thank you, Tim. It's a pleasure. Take care.